Uh, Hello, Jerome. Let
Good.
me fix this camera.
Hello there. Hello there.
How are you?
Doing amazing. Great to see you. Great to feel your energy here, Nova.
Oh, thank you. Blessed likewise. I'm so thrilled to be here. Here and now.
We're here and now. We're
Yeah.
here and now. And just sinking together, coming all the way from the land down under, you know? My goodness.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
It's always awesome. I always feel like just, I gotta pinch myself sometimes, the times that we're living in, that we can connect to each other across the world, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Amazing. Just
Yeah.
at the touch of the button. Yeah.
This would not be possible in this way. It would have to be in a different way.
Right, right. I'm sure in another life we would definitely be tuning in and, in a whole different way. It'd be telepathic, I'm sure.
Mm. Yeah, I think we're returning to that.
Absolutely. The time is now,
The
for the
time.
return,
Mm.
the lessons to learn, and yeah, just the remembering, the remembrance of who we are, what we are, and why we're here. Yeah.
Mm.
So just want to take the time to say, first of all, thank you for coming in, Nova. And how are you feeling in this moment? How are you feeling today? I know your day is just starting. My day is coming to a close, but how are you today?
I'm well. I'm so well. Thank you. Yeah, started off the morning beautifully, had my juice, had a walk on the beach, gratitude, and yeah, and here I am, within your energy and your vortex, and yeah, blessed to be alive, honestly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And and when we forget, you just have to remind yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah. Are we breathing? Do we still have a body? Yes.
Mm.
Yes. What else have we got? Okay. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do today?
Right. You're like checking, check. You're like checking off the list. You're like, okay, I still got my eyes. Okay, check. I still have my arms, my hands, my legs. Okay,
Good.
I'm still here. Wow. Do you do you really go down the list? Do you have like gratitude practices like that, Nova?
Honestly, I am all over the place. It must be a feminine thing, but there is nothing set in stone. I have a journal and I don't write in it. I am, yeah, it's a, it's a moment in time that I allow myself whenever I remember or whenever I get caught in something to
Mm,
just pause, breathe,
mm,
come into the body, into the present moment, and look at these things, whether it's, well, what's happening?
mhm.
You know, is there something going on?
Yeah.
Okay, can I acknowledge that? Can I do something right now? No. Okay, what am I grateful for?
Right.
And then it just comes. And yeah, there's no list. There's no
Yeah.
nothing. Just
I love it. I love it. It's effortless.
yeah.
It's effortless. You know, it's so natural, such a natural way of being. And I titled this, Nourishment and Natural Healing with Nova,
Yeah.
because when you're able to just have such a gratitude, and it doesn't even have to be labeled as a gratitude practice, but it's just your way of being,
Mm.
that you find that it's so freeing because Nova, here in the States, here in the US of A, we have so many things that we've adopted and we have different practices that we've had to, I guess, enlist and adopt for ourselves because there's this constant hustle and bustle, the culture of go, go, go and get and accumulate and be someone and do something and make something happen and make something shake and all of these things. We're just going, going, going. And we really don't slow down a whole lot. But I haven't been to Australia, so I can only assume that the pace where you
It's the
are
same. No,
is
it's the
much
same.
more relaxed.
It's up to us, isn't it?
Okay.
It's up to us. Yeah, it's definitely sounds very, very similar,
Really?
the US and yeah, and Australia. I mean, perhaps there's a little more laid back. It just depends where you live and,
Hmm.
you know, and who you surround yourself with, your lifestyle in general, you know.
Hmm.
But that's what I was. That's where I come from. That's how I was brought up. And I was, you know, I'm Spanish actually. So I was
Okay.
born in Spain, but I've been living here for many years. I'm bilingual. That's the, you know, the language there,
Yeah.
the accent, sorry. Um, but that's very much where I come from in my life. And I've had to layer by layer unravel that which is not me,
Mm.
which is not you, which is not anyone, right?
Mhm.
It's an unraveling of those layers on every level, physical, mental, emotional, and therefore spiritual,
Right.
to to return to our self, our true self, return to our innocence,
Hmm.
return to our, you know, our inner child, whatever you want to call it. It's the true being
Yes.
that's there. It's always there, and that's why you said so beautifully. It's a remembrance. Like we're all here to remember. We're all here walking each other home.
Yes.
That it's all right. Yeah.
Abs- Absolutely. I agree. I agree. And you know, being born in Spain, you said you were born in Spain. Were you were raised in Spain?
Uh, a few years there, and a few years, and a lot longer here actually. Now, way
Okay.
longer here now. But I
So
did do
then
some schooling there as well.
some schooling in Spain. Okay. So then when did you travel to Australia? When was that journey? When did
Ah,
that happen?
that was in the 80s. So when back then they were bringing in young families to Australia and giving them citizenship, and you know, basically just bringing all the families in. So my parents came with me when I was 2.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so we lived here for a few years. My sisters were born here, and then we went back to Spain. I did all of high school there,
Hmm.
some primary school, some high school, or finished high school, and then I wanted to come back to do university here.
Okay.
And and so we all came back. And since then, I've lived here, in essence,
Yeah.
and obviously traveled and so on. But yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much lived here. Yeah.
Beautiful. And what do you feel like, you know, is the spirit that keeps you there? What keeps you there as your grounding point, or you know, your stationary point, like the place where you feel most at home? I would love to hear what are the main differences that you feel between Spain and Australia that you found, and what keeps you where you are today?
What keeps me here is that I have 2 boys.
Ah,
Yes, I have 2 boys. I'm a mama,
what
and
what are their names?
Zion and Cairo.
Oh,
Yeah.
powerful names.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So I'm separated. So I separated 5 years ago.
Okay.
That was part of my massive waking up,
Mm.
and yeah, and so I live here because their father lives here as well, and it's a beautiful base. You know, I've had a lot of turmoil because it's interesting how the universe, God, source, whatever you call it,
Mm.
does. So you face and confront what you need to,
Mm.
and it will keep that there in front of you until you do. So I remember meeting my ex-husband, and it was at the time where I said, I don't want to live here
Mm.
because I'm a gypsy. I've always traveled, right?
Mm.
So I love not having to have those roots. That's like always been for me very important. And you know, there was an unraveling there throughout the marriage and so on, that I realized there was a massive death within, realizing that he didn't want the same thing.
Mm.
And you know, fast tracking later, the 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 interesting side of the perception of freedom, and how it's just a perception, and
Mm.
you can still do it all and be it all. and be blissful and happy in a place where for years you wanted to leave. But I'm blissful and I'm happy and I'm grateful to be here and to have lived here and to continue to live here for as long as I need to or want to,
Yeah.
because it's a choice. It's my choice, not anybody else's. And I have no blame or judgment outwards. And that's been it's been a huge process over the years, because it was a massive resistance for me that I have to be
Yeah.
here. I want to go. I want to take my kids and travel, and I want to do all of these things, and I'm stuck, right? I'm stuck.
Mm.
Perception,
Okay.
resistance, suffering.
Yes.
But I travel.
Mm-hmm.
I move. I can, I have my visions as well, and I'm moving towards them. So there is this release and detachment and a lot of confronting of my own. It's all my creation,
Mm.
my own shiz, right?
This is true. This is true, and it takes great maturity to admit that, just to admit that. It takes so many levels, of lived experience that you've clearly gone through, levels of lived experience, levels of maturity, levels of understanding, to just come to that conclusion of, you know what, if it's up to me, if it will be. If it's up to me, it will be. Like, I am already free. You're such a free spirit. Like you said, you're a gypsy, you're a free spirit. You wander. Like myself, I'm an air sign as well. So I definitely feel more claustrophobic in spaces. Like, I yearn to go places, to travel, to be in different places and different spaces, and to meet new faces.
Mm.
And oh my gosh, you remind me, Nova, when I was going through a period with different partners, especially my ex-wife. We were together for a decade. So
Mm.
we were high school sweethearts from, the age of 18 till about, yeah, till 28. So it was a decade
Mm.
we were together. And when we separated, oh man, I felt it was like an identity crisis. I didn't know really who I was still.
Mm.
And I was wondering, like, who will I be now without this, without her in my life, without your divine counterpart, or who you thought was going to be forever. You didn't know that it wasn't forever. You didn't know that things would change. Because I thank you for just your honesty and vulnerability, and saying that your partner, he had certain intentions that weren't in line with your intentions. So what do you feel was the misalignment, that didn't have the alignment? What was the big disconnect?
Mm. Well, I can only, and this has been the biggest practice, and I'm sure you can relate. The the biggest practice for me is to take full responsibility and full accountability for me
Hmm.
and my part,
Okay.
because that's all I have control over,
Mm-hmm.
and that is where it's actually stemming from. Because if we are the creator, then everything that's happening, we have at least a massive part in
Mm-hmm.
what's actually being played out, what we perceive as being happening to us, right? And so that has been the journey, I guess, of, you know, that's where I said every time I feel like I am putting the blame outwards
Mm-hmm.
or judging someone, I'll turn that back around. Who's that? Who said Bob Marley said that as well, right? When you
Mm.
point a finger, how many are pointing
Yeah.
back?
Yeah, they're pointing back, and it's like, all the, you know, the the grudges, they linger when we're pointing our finger. For
Yes.
sure.
Mm.
So you took your power back, Nova. You know, you reclaimed, you reframed, and you gained your power back when you accepted responsibility, which is the response to the ability that we have at all times. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's beautifully said. Yeah, wow.
Wow. Wow. I love this. I love this. And just your little ones, you know, how old, how young are Zion and Cairo?
11 and Cairo just turned 8.
Beautiful.
So they're little bit, they're getting bigger now. Do you have
11.
kids, Jerome?
No, not at the moment. Not at the moment. But what would you say, you know, to speak to someone who doesn't have children? What would you say that, you know, would be the biggest thing you feel that people are missing out on if they don't have children, if they haven't brought a soul into this world, if they haven't brought star seeds on this new earth? What do you feel like people might miss out on?
Oh my gosh. That's a really good question. I think if we look at it from the perspective of life itself, it's not that we have to fear missing out on anything. That's the first thing I want to say, because it's our choice, directly or indirectly, what we do with our lives, right? And there will be experiences continuously that will reflect those choices back to us, and that's our life. That's our life, right? So whether we have kids or not, whether we have a partner or not, or whatever we do, we can say, oh, well, what are we missing out on the other side, or is the grass greener, or whatever it is. In saying that, my boys are just, there's just no words. Like, I don't know life without them. Like,
Mm,
I feel that it's something that if you are, all I can speak of is as a woman turning into a mother,
mhm,
there is no way you can be the same person that you were before having a child or more,
mhm,
that you are responsible for caring for, loving, and the lessons, if you allow yourself to become the
mm,
student as
mm.
well as the teacher,
Yes.
are the biggest by far I have experienced in my life. Yeah, because what we play out with them is what our patterns are everywhere, everywhere in relationships, past, present, future, whatever. That is, you know, your your school basically
Yeah.
at home. And it is very confronting once you realize that, hey, you're actually not in control, or you don't want to control these beings
Mm,
like society tells us that we must, you know,
right.
have them in conform and this and behave this way and speak this way. And if
Mm,
you don't, then punishment. And it's the whole paradigm is what we've been indoctrinated with. And that, that's not that's not it. And that's what I've realized and what I'm still practicing
it's the practice.
on a daily. It's in your
Yeah.
face. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I sound like my mum. Oh my gosh, I sound like my dad. Where is that coming from? Oh my God, I sound like my teacher. Or, it's automatic.
Wow.
Is that how I want to be spoken to? Is
Mm,
that the energy I want from my partner or my kid, or because they will reflect that back
right.
in one way or another,
Right.
right? So it's the biggest evolution. If you want to really grow, if you want to, get what do you call it, a crash course, like
Mm,
straight in to, whatever you want to call it,
straight there. Oh,
with awareness,
okay.
be in relation with your kids
Mm.
or with a partner if you can't have kids. It's not always to practice unconditional love.
Oh, yeah.
And we throw those words around a lot. What is unconditional love?
Mm.
It's love no matter what. No matter what they do to you, no matter what anyone does, there is still love for the being, for the soul, if that makes sense.
It
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. Oh my gosh. Nova, Jesus. Nova, you are bringing all the feels and the emotions up in here right now. Just really just bringing us into that heart space right now because when you speak, I love the way you speak about your children. And just speaking of Zion and Cairo in this way as teachers, that you can be the student and also the teacher, but you can also learn that class is always in session, there's always progression. And we hear, all the time that the universe is a university, but
Mm.
to get these lessons, from a being that you gave birth to, a being a soul that came through you, through you, and just to be taught, I'm listening to you, and I remember one of my cousins, and he told me, he said, Jerome, there was one time where he said his son did something that he wasn't supposed to do. Like it was something that in the rules of the house, this was against, what the teachings, structure that they had built, the foundation. He had gone against the natural way of things. And he said, son, come here, and he sat him down and he sat next to him on the bed and he said, son, I got to tell you something. And he said, this is why you don't do that. We don't do that. And he was explaining to his son why, and all the reasons why this was not supposed to be done. And he said, Nova, he said, in that moment, he said, in the moment of his explanation, he said, it was like a light came down, like a golden light from the heavens came down on both of them in that moment. And it was almost as if he realized, he realized he was teaching his son a lesson that he himself still had to learn. He had not yet learned this lesson. And he was teaching his son what he still had to learn. So, what was one of those times for you, if you can recall, with
Oh
Zion
my
and
God,
Cairo? Yeah.
that's it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That was just, if we can pause there for a second and feel into what you just said, Jerome, because that's it.
Okay.
That's where we get our lessons.
Mm.
That's when we are aware. Yes, we are reparenting and learning along the way and doing our best with our kids, and we may screw up at times, and that's it. Not in judgment. Apologize, keep going, whatever it is, right?
Mm.
In those moments, that's it.
Mm.
That's where we get it.
Okay.
That's where it starts unraveling our pattern, our behavior. I do that. What you do next with your child, with your partner, with any relationship, because what happens there happens everywhere. That's where you evolve,
Okay.
you shift, you change. unless you start going down the rabbit hole of shame, guilt, etc., etc. Unnecessary. There's a moment there where you can, that moment where that you realize, and oh my God, I tell you, like almost daily. Let's be real. I've got 2 dragons in the house. Oh my gosh. Um, so when you get that, it's like, ego comes in. No, because I'm right, because I'm the parent, and that's from the past. That's not it. No. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. I've done that in the past. And I'll talk to like that with my boys.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. I just realized that's something that I've done too. I've done that to you. And poof, I'm sorry, that's just, it's not good. Like it doesn't work. It's not helping or whatever it is, whatever the case may be.
Right.
And just that honest conversation, you can feel the shift. You are releasing it, but they are seeing the real you. You're no longer the authoritarian on top of the pedestal, preaching down. Whether or not you do it in a nice way or not, it's still the energy of, I guess, pushing away in a way, or separation.
Yeah.
As opposed to dropping into your heart, right? Because that's mind dropping into your heart all of a sudden when you feel that, oh shiz, I do that. And feel it, oh my God, that's shameful, that's embarrassing, that's whatever it is. Be honest. Oh, even you don't have to say it, it's like, oh my God, be honest with yourself.
Right.
And then, if that's the communication you're having with your son or your daughter, then share it, or with your partner. I mean, that's the key right there to relations, to relationships.
Yes.
That's the practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, to answer, that was a long-winded answer, but it happens all the time.
Right on time. It was right on time. It was divine. This is what we're talking about. This is the message because, I love hearing this. Like I said before, I don't have children yet. I don't have them at the moment. And, if it's in, if it's in my path, then it's in my path. And listening to you, I'm reminded, deeply reminded, Nova, that so many things as I was growing up, I didn't understand. I seen a lot of dysfunction in my family. My parents divorced, the second time they divorced, I was 6 years old. Then I watched my mom, marry 3 other gentlemen after that, and they all divorced. So I just seen so many just breakups and just all sorts of things. And I blame myself when I was younger for a lot of things and I didn't understand. And I was very combative and very argumentative. And as you speak, I'm realizing that as I was growing up, so were my parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know why I didn't realize that. I don't know why it took me so long to realize that they were growing up the same as me. Like they were just figuring it out. This is their first time, figuring it out. Just like this is my first time figuring it. We're all figuring it out. We're all just doing the best we can,
That.
So yeah, it just brings a lot of compassion. It brings a lot of grace. And it just brings just a lot of understanding, just to acknowledge we're just doing the best we can. Yeah.
Thank you, Jerome. No, Jerome, jeez, oh my gosh. That's it. That's it. That there is seeing everyone for the being in their experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, there's nothing personal. There's, that's unconditional there. That's the love.
Okay.
And then, yeah, that realization.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was my realization too. And I'm still figuring it out, you know,
Yeah.
every single day. And I guess that's something that I'm now communicating with my kids better.
Beautiful.
Yeah, instead of, I guess, trying to hide or trying to, you know, put things into a box like
Mm-hmm.
everybody else, and not talk about certain things, or not, it's not that. It's being real, because they are master beings. When we come in to this experience, we are whole.
Mm.
It's what happens after, on a physical, mental, and emotional, the indoctrination, the foods, everything, right? That we end up with all these layers of shiz. That's not us. So they are the masters. We just have to try not to screw it up.
Oh man, I just the realness, because when you're speaking, Nova, about all these layers, just layers upon layers of things that we acquire, accumulate, and just put on our shoulders, just the indoctrination. Earlier you spoke about, that hustle and bustle culture and just the mindset and mentality that may have shaped your reality years ago. Who was Nova back then when you were maybe under the spell that a lot of society is, who were you? Can you bring us back to who you were back in those indoctrination days?
Whew, that's great. I would say I never was fully indoctrinated in certain aspects, because I've always been a rebel.
Right.
Got to thank my dad for that.
Okay.
Always question everything. Um, so, I did grow up with some, natural health, and aliens, and, alternative energy, and all of this. So I grew up in that, but also very much, medicine
Mm.
and so on. So um, I would say I'm completely different. Clearly, we shift on every level, most of us, throughout our lives. I come from a family that was very free
Mm.
in terms of thinking, and allowing. And so I did have that freedom to believe what I wanted to believe, and so on. But I still went to school. I still was indoctrinated, and I was very much scientific. So my background is very scientific.
Mm.
I wanted to become a surgeon,
Oh.
and I did biomedical science. I was, at that time, my mum was really unwell with
Mm.
cancer, and and so I was researching and doing all those things, and that was my biggest, like, one of the biggest drops for me, where the penny drops and shift in life, right? Because what I realized, seeing my mum go through all of the treatments, my dad trying to help with all the natural stuff, but she was doing all of the treatments, and I was encouraging that, all of it. That's what I knew.
Mhm.
Um, and seeing the whole system from within, and how it was like a conveyor belt, and there was just no care, and it just didn't make sense at the time, even though I thought that was it. If that makes sense, I thought that was the best thing available,
Mhm.
and yes, the natural thing on top of it, but that, if you've got cancer, this is what you've got to do.
Mm.
And yeah, I just remember sitting in the office with, I made an appointment with the surgeon, second time around when she, they gave her the all clear, and they'd done all the treatments to her. She was young and strong, so they did all of it full blast. Gave her the all clear, as they do, and then a couple of months later, obviously, there was just this more of it, obviously, as they say. And they said, oh, I can't do anything about it, this and that. There's an experimental chemo. Okay. So I did all this research because I was a scientist, and brought, a pile of these studies to the surgeon's office and said, hey, you said there was nothing that you could do. There's surgeries that you can do here. It was in the aorta, like wrapped around. So basically it's just part of the endothelial cells, the cells of the aorta. And so they said that they couldn't perform surgery, should just bleed out. I was there with my mum and dad, but I was sitting in front. And this man just looked at what I had brought and said, what's the point? She's going to die anyway. She's going to bleed out on the table. There's like a 0.5 or 5% chance that she'll even make it through the surgery, let alone it actually extending her life. That's how he spoke to me and to them who were sitting behind me. I was 22, 23 at the time. 22, maybe? 23? I don't know. I was like boiling. I was boiling inside and walked out of there, and that was the first time I saw my mum cry. So to me, that was it. I didn't want to ever step foot or be a part of that system. Even if I thought that that was what was needed at some time, I was like, I am not going to be a part of this. This is not it. And so that was a massive, shift in the direction. So I obviously didn't continue studying. I did aviation. I was very much the person to answer your question, because I just went on a tangent, but I'm trying to get a feel here of, I'm very stubborn, I've always been very intelligent, very in my masculine as well. So all of these things have shaped what I've chosen, even though I always wanted to dance. I always wanted to help. This is where that comes from, obviously. There's so much creative expression and so on, but I had to do A, B, C, and D because I'm a good girl. And this is what is expected, and this is what I should do, and this is what success looks like. And, that was what happened.
You're not alone. You're not alone. Yeah.
Yeah. You can relate.
Oh, yeah.
What's your background, actually?
Yeah. Thinking that this is what success looks like, and this is the traditional path to take, and these are the routes that I need to go, and, this is what's expected of me, and all of that stuff, just to be able to break away from all of that. And like you said you're a rebel, I feel the same. It's like, at the point I am now, I'm not, I'm not equipped for a job,
No.
like I'm really not the ideal employee. I have to be on my own. I have to do my own thing. Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't resist that one. Oh my gosh, we've done that for too
Oh
long.
my gosh, for years, like, oh man, the whole list of odd jobs that I was doing, just trying to make ends meet, before that little voice was just like, why are you, what if you could just not, what if you could just live? And oh man, it was almost like I had to give myself permission to trust myself, like to trust, like, Jerome, you can be resourceful. You might not have all the resources, but you have the resourcefulness to make it happen. Whatever it is, you can.
Mm-hmm.
And I I had to have more I can than IQ. You know, a lot of people have IQ. I had to have a high I can. Yeah. Yeah.
That. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, IQ, mind,
Yeah.
mind, knowledge versus knowing heart
Right.
and
Exactly.
fear. And, it's just life as you can experience, which that's what you're experiencing, I'm sure. It just opens. It just, and you realize, wow, what the heck was I in? Like,
Yeah.
what was
Like what
that? What
what was holding me back? You
was
know?
that? Me?
Yeah.
My shoes. Just laying the shoes. I talk about that. That's how I talk about detox. That's how I talk about everything. I'm like, it's
Mhm.
just shiz. It's not you. It's
Not
the
you.
shiz. Get
Yeah.
rid of the shiz. Just let it go. Let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. I even saw you put that up, like on your story, there's a video of a woman, a lady eating chocolate cake.
No.
And she's like just like gobbling it down, just stuffing it down. And like I've definitely been there in the past. I've been there. And underneath it, you're like, it's not you. It's not
Yeah.
you. It's all of that. It's all of the shiz, right? It's not even you. Yeah.
No. Again, what we said about babies as they come in and they are the master
Right.
beings, right? It's just the accumulation of literal shiz,
Hmm.
physical, mental, and emotional indoctrination, whatever you want to call it, all of it, programming, blah, blah,
Hmm.
blah, right? That's what we accumulate. That shapes us into our personal reality at this moment.
Hmm.
At any moment, we can choose to let it all kind of dissolve. And that's when we go, oh, like you said, who am I?
Yeah. Yeah. That was the question.
Mm,
That was the question. It was like a big, I had to look at myself in the mirror and really ask myself, like, who are you? This is not who you are. Who are you really? Because it's not this, this is not it. So, when it comes to just these new understandings that you started to come into when you were peeling back the layers, kind of like an onion, and
mm-hmm.
and then come the tears, right? And you're letting go of all of the fears, and then come the tears. You're peeling back, and just really getting to the core of who you are as a being. When I talked Nova to Brother Jake, and I also talked to Brother Rue, who
Love Jake and Rue, my
yeah,
brothers, yeah.
shout out to the brothers, especially, when I talked to Rue, he mentioned that, he was living a life coming off of being a professional rugby player and just living steeped in all of the protein programming and
Mm-hmm.
thinking that he needed to, to eat the dead animal flesh to gain enough, on his body that to be apt, to be an adequate human being, just walking and talking around, he needed to consume these animal carcasses. And I definitely fell into that same programming. And when he said that I think he said he was on a beach or somewhere, and he met this woman, and she told him something that was strange. He had never heard this before. She said that human beings are frugivores by nature. And he was like, I think this is what he said. Don't quote me, but he was like, "You're off your effing chops. Like you're off your chops. You're off your rocker. You're gone. Like whatever, right? Like get real. We're frugivores. What are you talking about? Fruit based. What is this?" And but this is what he said, Nova. He said she was glowing. The woman that told him that we're supposed to be eating fruit, that we're actually not supposed to be eating all this, we're supposed to be eating this. He said she was glowing, and that
Mm.
everyone else that was consuming the regular, meat-centric diet, the carnivore diet, the pus and, mucus-based diet, they were not glowing like this woman. And you know who the woman was. You know who she was, right? So can you you talk about this? When did you come into that new understanding? Or like you said, you already had the natural healing, you came up with that, but when did it flower and blossom and bloom into this?
Ah, thank you. Love that. Love that story. Oh yeah, never forget those interactions. Like, um, okay. I was very, very, very indoctrinated in the medical side. Okay, so for me, and again, coming from that, I was science. Science was my religion.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a religion. Science was the religion. I said, well, all these religions preach the same thing, yet they're all hating each other and telling each other that they're wrong and so on. That's all crap then. Science is it, right? Um, so for me, I think the first step was I always wanted to be, in a way, I had that in the back of my mind. I loved animals, always had a connection to animals. And I always said, I wish I could not eat them. Obviously, I didn't wish it enough and didn't look at it enough and so on, and I had nobody around me that ate that way. Didn't know anybody that ate that way. I didn't know about, we didn't have internet and we didn't back then.
What year was this back then?
Oh, this is as a kid as well. I grew up, my young teenage years and my teenage years essentially were in Spain, and you eat meat, dairy, eggs, all that, fish at every single meal and everything in between. I guess just like everywhere now, but there's the bullfighting as well. It's in your face.
Right.
And I hated, there was such a push out to bullfighters. Yet, I'm consuming all the meat and all the,
Yeah.
But there was this, because it was in your face, everywhere, at every town, every village, they all have, you all have bullfighting. And then they kill it, and then they skin it right there and they prepare it, and then everybody eats, like in, centuries ago. That's how, and so they still have that practice, and especially in the very small villages. And I just remember just not wanting it, but then going, oh yeah, but then how do I do it? And I remember trying, like, oh, I'm not going to eat meat today. And everything in the house, like even the salad had tuna, and even, and it's like, I wasn't ready for that. I guess it didn't, yeah. And the programming of, well, but we're supposed to eat it. That was the main thing. We're supposed to eat it. And so, fast forward to just over a decade ago, maybe. Yeah, it was just after my first son was born, so maybe 10 years ago. My sister had turned vegetarian, my younger sister.
Oh.
And that's when it started to shift, because I was questioning everything. At this point, I'd started questioning massively the medical system, massively, because during my pregnancy, I took the time and the effort to research, because that's what I learned to do, research. So I actually researched, the shots and all of these different things. And I was the only one. So I was doing it, basically against everyone around me wanting to do things the normal way. So, yes, unfortunately, I allowed basically the first couple of shots to my eldest, even though I knew inside me that I didn't want them. I had done some research, but I hadn't fully gotten it, right? And nobody else, everyone was pushing and pushing and so on, until my dad actually messaged me, because he was in Spain at the time, and he's like, why are you doing that? I'd been vaccinated, growing up. So I was like, I didn't expect my dad to say, why are you doing that? And I was like, oh, it was like click. And anyway, as I continued researching, going down that rabbit hole, that was it. You know, I said, over my dead body, we are not. There is nothing that is going to, and nothing, I mean nothing, not a med, not a this, not a that, nothing. Blasphemy. You know, and then the guilt set in, the mother's guilt. So I was like, oh crap, I have to fix this. I have to fix this. I have to fix this. I have to detox. I have to get rid of, you know, I have to. So I just went down that rabbit hole, or up into those tunnels, instead of the rabbit hole. So yeah, so I went straight into all of that, and you know, it started off with organic, and you know, there's so many levels to this, so many levels. There's the naturopathic mainstream level. That's where I was at that time, which, you know, is still like organic meats and organic veggies and this and that, and you've got to, you know, go this way and make sure you're eating this and supplement with that and blah, 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 right? That was me the first few months probably. And and having my sister shift already was like, I was like, oh, she started bringing in the little questions of, well, you don't actually need it, and what if this, and what, and I was like, oh, and as I kept looking, I was like, oh, you don't actually need it. Wow. And not only that, it's so detrimental. Oh my God. What? And it was, you know, the masters like, you know, Dr. Robert Morse, John Rose. At the time, you know, it was Dan McDonald I was listening to, Life Regenerator. You know, I came across Fully Raw Christina. I came across, what was those? There were a couple of documentaries that I now have, you know, as part of my my vortex. You know, I get souls to immerse in this because we need it.
Yes.
It's like there's so many questions, there's so much programming. It's like we need to hear these different beings that have journeyed for a longer time, you know, from their perspective, speak on these subjects and their life and their habits and their lifestyle, and these programs just start dissolving, you know. So that was it, you know, and that was 10 years ago. Turned vegetarian, then vegan. Over time, it took me a while. I tried to do fasting. I was learning all of these, you know, it was still very much in the mind. But yeah, learning about detoxification and so on. And yeah, it's been a journey there, because then you know, I was so focused on here and doing and not living either. Okay. The way that we know now is living. I was living, but it's not the same, right? It wasn't from here. Right. And I was sick as well. So I actually got sick, quite unwell. It was like the truck had to hit me hard to realize that I had to make massive shifts. Okay. So that happened where, you know, I think, I don't know, it's on my page. You can see there's like a before and after picture. That's actually me. I was so inflamed and I was exhausted, in pain. You know, I had, you know, I come from a background of gymnastics, like elite gymnastics. And so I can do in my mind right now. I don't know. You know, I can train into it again, but somersaults and all of these, you know, pirouettes and things. So to lose strength and the ability to hang from a bar, to, you know, to have, like, to feel like you're so weak, like an old lady, all of that, it felt like it just hit me all of a sudden. But when you look back, it happens over the years. You just don't feel it, and we call it aging. and we call it motherhood,
Mm.
and we call it, you know, oh, stress, oh, this, oh, that, you know, it's all blame, blame, blame. It's like, no, what are you doing? What have you done? What are you eating over all of that time? And slowly you're losing your health, your vitality, your joy, your bliss. And at some point it's going to hit you, because at some point, you know, that glass is full of crap overflowing. That's when we're like, oh. And for me, that was at 33 or so, after my second born.
That's when it was.
Yeah. So that's when I couldn't, you know, I couldn't understand why I was so inflamed. And at that point, it had to be a physical appearance thing for me,
Right.
as a woman, which had already been always been slim and fit, and you know, I did modeling, I did, you know, all of these things in the past, and then all of a sudden I'm so inflamed and bloated, and I can't shake it.
Mm.
I can't shake it, no matter what I did. I went into hot yoga, I did all this exercise, I would inflame even further.
Mm.
I'd eat less. I was already, you know, pretty much vegan, and, you know, doing some juicing and this and that. And, you know, I was just playing around with all of that, and it wasn't enough.
Really?
And yeah, it wasn't. Shiz hit the fan. I was like, no, it's time to sort yourself out. You are in massive misalignment. Yeah. And that's love. That's unconditional love. That's God. That's source, universe, whatever, you know, really smashing it in your face, going, hey, wake up. What are you doing? You know better. You're even researching this stuff. What is this? And so that's why I said, okay, I'm going to do a long fast, because I was playing around doing short ones and la-di-da.
It was never enough. You're saying do a longer, it needed to be prolonged,
Yeah,
not just periodic.
yeah. And I needed to shift things. I needed to shift things because, yeah, I needed to shift on every level. It was all in misalignment physically, you know, what I was bringing in as well. Vegan, yes, but what was I bringing in vegan? Anything and everything that was
I
vegan.
see.
Yes, with, you know, mindfully, as people say, in moderation. But I was into the hot chips, into all of this, into all of, you know, anything and everything. Yes, I also had my juices and all of that was there, but the other stuff was as well,
Right.
if that makes sense. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. My goodness. So, Nova, you know, first of all, thank you for sharing that. You know, thank you for sharing, just like, you know, to know where we're going. It's like to recall where you've been, to see like, wow, I've come a long way. You know,
Mm.
to even have that before and after picture, that photo of yourself, just as a testament to yourself, not even just to anyone else, but to let yourself know, wow, you know,
Mm.
I've come a long way. Like, do you remember, you know, when there was inflammation? Do you remember there was frustration? Do you remember the constipation? Do you remember the accumulation? Do you remember, you know, just the stagnation before
Mm-hmm.
you got into this vibration? So, what was it like for you to witness your own transformation after you healed yourself and revealed yourself? What was it like for
Mm.
you to witness yourself then?
That's still a journey, obviously. It will always be. But there's been some massive shifts, and the first one would be, you know, during that I did 40 days on fresh juice,
Yeah.
no herbs or anything. I just did that, and you know, day. This is when you realize how we have a baseline of what we feel and think is normal in our bodies, in our lives, in our mind, in our emotion, right? This is our norm. And it kind of might shift, and every day it's actually shifting in your life, right? But because it's so subtle, mostly, we don't realize the changes. And so that's where I was saying before, how when you look back, you realize that it was over time that obviously you accumulate all this toxic waste and all this, and things slow down in your body, and then things are, sluggish and see this, right? But because it's over time, it's like it's your normal. That baseline, as as a kid, as a teenager, and then as you go into adulthood, it's like it feels like it's right. So until something has to like wake you up,
Right.
go, hey, that's actually not it. That's not you. That's not your baseline. That's not your life. Your life shouldn't be in pain and bloated and suffering and feeling like crap and anxious and depressed, and that's not it. And when I started the fast, I was already so excited, right? I think day 9, because in theory I knew all of this, and I'd felt little bits of it, right? Of how it feels to be a bit of on a juice fast, or eating a certain way, like fully raw or whatever. I'd done very short snippets, and so I was excited. And on day 9 or 10, I can't remember, it was, I hit a wall. And that's because I wasn't doing enemas. I did have the enema kit, but I wasn't doing enemas the days preceding or anything. And I wasn't on herbs. So, I actually prefer using herbs than enemas, because it's more efficient clearing top to bottom. But back then, I was just juicing. And so I hit a wall, the detox wall, the healing crisis, whatever it was. And I was in a fetal position. I was in a fetal position at home because I had my kids, my 2 boys, which were tiny at the time, still breastfeeding my youngest, and I had the other one, which was probably a bit over a toddler, and yeah, it's full on. And so I had to wait until my husband at the time, my ex-husband, finished work to actually kind of take over with the kids. And I could actually go and get do an enema. And so I did a couple of enemas. That finally passed. And I was like, oh, okay, bedtime. The next morning, I woke up and I put my feet on the ground. And I'll never forget, it was like, I got up, I was like, what? What just happened? There's no pain. There's no pain. But there was pain, and there's no pain. It was like that.
Like a night and day difference.
Yeah. So every morning I was used to, this is coming from an ex-gymnast who can do somersaults and jump off high things and would not stop. My whole life would not stop dancing, jumping. And, rewind to where I said, I felt like shit hit the fan, and here I am. For months, if not years, I cannot recall, because it, incrementally happened. I couldn't jump off, let's say, a table or whatever it was, and not be in pain. Like even just the thought of it would make me cringe. That's like, it felt like I had, little glass bits in my feet, and I had weakness everywhere, and I just felt real weak and real in pain. And every morning when I would wake up, my lymphatic system was so sluggish that the first steps I would take would be in pain, and that was my normal. And you didn't think about it anymore. It was like, oh, your first steps are like, and then you warm up, and it gets easier, right? And you go about your day and you do all the things that you have to do as a mum, as a partner, as a whatever, and that's how we live life, right? And so that morning, it was gone. And that's when you realize, oh, shiz, I've been like, that was my normal.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck? Like, it comes into your awareness big time. And that was the moment I said, this
Mm.
works. Oh my God, this works. Oh my God. And then it was just smooth sailing after that, you know. I was like all in. And it just gets better and better, right? Yeah.
Wow. And,
But
and
yeah,
you and
yeah.
you said it was after the you said it was after the enema, so it just had to be a period of cleansing,
Mm,
but for a prolonged period. And then once there was no pain, you realized, wow, like
mm,
I actually I exist now without pain when
mm,
every day of my existence before was with pain. I was just kind of tolerating the pain that I was feeling on a daily basis.
mm. Yeah. We, we feel it's normal, right?
Right.
It's a normal part of aging to have, and you know, and most people that you would talk to, if I, you know, it was, well, you come from a background of elite gymnastics, or you come from, you know, a background of, I don't know, weight training or athletics. So you're going to end up with arthritis, which is, you know, similar to these, you know, joint pains and aches and weakness and this and that. You know, that's just accumulation in those areas. It's not because of the sport that you did.
Right.
It's not. It's what you've done or not done, what you've eaten, how you've been swimming in your own shiz
Mm.
over time. And anyone can clean themselves out. And that was like,
Yes.
to me, that was, you know, it's like, how
That's
easy
the
was that?
yes, that's the eureka
Mm,
moment,
yeah.
the aha moment, just the grand revelation, the epiphany, just the understanding that if you can do it, if someone else can do it, then you can do it. Anyone can do it. We all
Mhm.
can do it,
Mm.
you know? That no one is above their body's regenerative factor, our healing factor. The body is the healer and the revealer, you
Absolutely.
know? It's the body. It's the body. So this is tremendous because when you're witnessing this level of healing, and I saw, Nova, this video on your page, and I believe you have it pinned there, where there's an account of I think it was one of the women in your program. There's a testimony of someone that went through your detox program, and they gave like a testimonial of having arthritis and
Mm.
seeing just the emotion on your face when you just heard the story and you just heard the news. No pain. And you said it was only 2 months. It only took 2 months. And they had maybe been dealing with that pain for years. And
Yeah.
in 2 months, doing that detox, no pain. And I saw the emotion on your face, and you were just like, what can you say? There were no words because you've been on that side. You know how miraculous and how magical it can be to just realize that you're free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. It's and that's my message. It's anyone
Yeah.
at any age.
Right.
This lady, I think in her 60s,
Okay.
if not late 50s, I can't recall. You know, and her mother
Hmm.
also with severe arthritis.
Okay.
And I mean like visible,
Yeah.
but changing, physical changes, reversing
Yeah.
arthritis, not just in the, you know, in the feeling of, oh, no pain, but along with that, the physical changes that come, you know.
Yes.
So at any
Yeah.
age, any diagnosis,
Mm.
can we just say that?
Can we?
I get it all the time. The countless messages and comments
Hmm.
that I get are, what about my issue? Because we've been so indoctrinated that,
Mm.
you know, everything's compartmentalized. I come from that background.
Hmm.
I speak that, well, I spoke that language. I'm forgetting it. But it's like, oh, but I have, a nervous system issue, or I have a tumor. Will it work for me? Or I have, I don't know, a bowel inflammatory chronic disease. I have an inactive thyroid. I'm here to just say that it doesn't matter. It actually doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the symptoms are. It doesn't matter what the diagnosis, which is just a bunch of symptoms. Because at the root of it is that we're just too clogged up. And it's not just the gut, it's lymphatically, it's systemically. It's the whole body just lowering in frequency. It's dense. Right? It's a density. Again, the way I explain everything is in terms of energy, because everything is energy. Everything is energy. We know that, right? So therefore, not just the emotions carry a density or a lightness. Density, fear, lightness, love, right? On that scale. But the foods do too, and everything else in life. And that's that same scale where acidity and alkalinity, right? We require in creation, in this existence, there is that duality for movement to occur, for life to actually happen, to experience itself, to know itself, because otherwise, well, it's God. It's one, it's all. So in order to experience itself, God, life, everything, and then there has to be a scale, and there has to be a positive to negative perception, because we have positive and negative, as, oh, this is good or bad. Nothing is good or bad. It is simply one or the other, or in between, is part of the scale of creation. What we want to experience is hopefully on the more what we perceive as positive. However, when we experience, like when shiz hits the fan with our disease, or when something bad happens, what is that? That's part of creation too. It's there for a reason. Yeah. And so I just went on a big tangent there.
No, this is perfect. This is perfect. You're explaining these things that people have been debating and discussing for eons. For eons we've been trying to figure out. So many people, Nova, have been struggling and striving to achieve enlightenment. And it's almost as though when you lighten up the body, you're already enlightened. That is enlightenment. When you lighten up the vessel, like you said, the density, the things that heaviness, that burdensome, over encumbered density weighing us down, clogging up the pipes, clogging and gunking up the system, and really gunking up the guidance, our gut instincts, our gut intuition, right? Right?
That's it.
Like we're not receiving those messages because we're clogging it up. So my goodness, when you're speaking this way, and I love the passion. I just love the passion, because health is not just the latest fashion, right? You really have passion surrounding this, just like the people you mentioned, Nova, just like, the John Rose, the Dan McDonald, the Robert Moores, the Rue, the Jake, like all these people. You've become one of those people. You've become one of those people for other people. And you are one of those people for other people. I mean, you know this, but if you don't know this, let me just remind you, there is someone that looks at you and they see you in the same light that you saw those other individuals that you so named. You are that John Rose for somebody. You are that Robert Morris for somebody. You are that person that if it wasn't for Nova, I don't know where I'd be. You know,
Mm.
like maybe I would have, maybe eventually, maybe, but she came to shake me up and wake me up, to shift me and lift me and gift me with the solution to get away from pollution, right? So I'm just
Oh,
letting you know, you are that somebody. You are.
thank you,
You know?
Jerome. That was beautiful. Thank you. And 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 how else can we, how can we not? That's it, right? When we've experienced it, and with immense gratitude we have towards those that actually sparked,
Right.
right? And who are the spark of life,
Yeah.
to to not share. I mean, it's just not possible. In whichever way you do it, it doesn't mean you have to do exactly what they do or what I do or what you
Right.
do, which is sharing the light. You know, you're sharing the light in the same way.
Yeah.
And so many beacons of light are sharing
Yes.
with you to everyone.
Yes.
That, like, how can we not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's one of the greatest questions. I love that. You know, while everyone else asks why, it's like you just say, why not? Why not? Like, how not? How not? How can I not? You know? One person is asking themselves, well, how can I? How can I? And you're like, how can I not? You know, like the cup runneth over. It's you filled up the cup so much it's spilling over. It's just spilling over. It's so much love, you can't contain it. You know, you
Mm.
can't sustain it in one vessel. You have to share it.
Mm.
So let me just let people know, you know, really quick, because there's a list you put down. It's on one of your the fruitful detox. So there's a fruitful detox, 14-day. There's the purge, 28-day, right? And just to give people a picture, like you said, Nova, people are curing themselves chronic pain, eczema, psoriasis, arthritis, hypothyroidism, lumps gone, right? Fibroids gone, anxiety, stress, high blood pressure, ailments, right? Liver, all this stuff, these bowel obstructions, constipation, diarrhea, everything, no matter what it is, we can heal, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is
Yeah.
tremendous. This is tremendous. We need this.
Yeah.
We need this.
Thank you. And it's, I provide the vortex.
Mm.
I literally just provide the vortex, and
Yeah.
I'm here to just guide and be,
Beautiful.
because it's, as you said, and as we all know, it's you.
Yeah.
And only those that make the decision, that are ready, and that actually walk the path,
Mm-hmm.
they can heal from
Yeah.
anything. And type 1, that just happened. It's happening. It's unraveling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just had this beautiful soul, Cindy, move through 14 days on fruitful detox.
Mm-hmm.
Fruit, fruitful.
Yeah.
Type 1, insulin. You know, insulin required for her entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she's pretty much off it.
Done.
It's, everything is possible.
Yes.
You have to be ready. It's not that I haven't had type 1s in my vortex before, but if you have to be ready, you have to do the work. The work is to unravel your
Mm-hmm.
layers, not just physically, but there's the energetic and emotional component as well, you know. And I just, what I've realized more than anything is that I actually provide the vortex, the container.
Mm-hmm.
And just by us being together in this container, with other souls on the same journey with different symptoms and different diagnoses and different, but just this little contained vortex.
Right.
It's so healing, even for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
On every level.
I feel it. I
Yeah.
feel it. Yeah. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. So I just want to honor your time. You know, there are so many questions that people have asked here during this conversation. And I want to ask, do you have a few moments to answer just a few questions that people have already asked while we've been conversing here?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay, just checking, just making sure.
Thank you,
So,
Jerome.
of course, of course. So first we have Haruka. Haruka from Japan. Shout out to Haruka. Haruka is asking, wow, so just going raw really shifted you. She's asking if just going raw really shifted you. You are glowing. Can I ask your age? So that's what Haruka said.
Ah, great. No, just going raw didn't shift me. I'm not saying that it can't shift you. However, I am of the knowing and experience that for most of us, especially if you have chronic symptoms or a diagnosis of some kind that you can't seem to shift, that you have to go a bit deeper. So I'm one of those kind of like, you know, John Rose and Dr. Morse, very much aligned in that way, that you go hard for a little while because you've been going for too long in the other direction. And sometimes we have to help the body to clear out, and that's why I do the detoxes that I do, you know, and they involve you know, fruit, juice fasting at different levels. You can go into some water and, you know, some intermittent dry fasting and so on, but I tend to have most people on juice fasting and herbs, and then we move into a high fruit, fully raw, and that is where the biggest shifts happen on every level as well, and taste buds change and the internal terrain shifts. And by that I mean not just the gunk that comes out, but the critters as well. So that's what the mainstream calls microbiome, is the, you know, is the inner environment of the population of bacteria, which we have so many, right? They're part of us. Bacteria and you know, fungus and parasites of all different kinds, right? That's that environment internally that we have to shift, because they have a consciousness, a collective consciousness that is also hijacking what we feel or we think or we desire, crave, and so on. We think it's our intuition, our gut, our bodies, our cultural background. It's not really, you know, because we have to realize that, and we see this shift when we start clearing the terrain and the critters into a different microbiome environment internally. We crave the foods that are meant for us way more than, you know, those things become old us, if that makes sense. So it's a lot easier as well to start shifting long term. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. It's a lot different feeling not having versus not needing, you know, like the feeling that you're not depleting without constantly feeding, just not needing, you know, to not need something that you were craving. There's nothing like that feeling of detachment that you can just walk by on the grocery store aisle. You can just literally walk by what used to be the greatest temptation, and there's no longer a temptation. That's like, oh man, you know, I can't trade that feeling. Can't trade that feeling. So yeah, the little critters, as you mentioned, those parasitic organisms that, you know, definitely, yeah, for sure. So she also asked your age. Were you comfortable revealing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 39.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm 39.
All right.
Yeah.
39. 39. Take your time.
Yeah. 39 and we're going backwards now. We're getting younger.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you know, again, I always reiterate, even though I talk a lot about parasites and
Mm,
bacteria and fungus and all of these critters, right? The inner terrain is the reason why they're there.
mm,
If that's what they feed off, death. That is their role in this universe. They break stuff
right.
down, right? They eat acids. They eat toxic acids.
Hmm.
That's their role.
Yeah.
However, if you clear them out, right, without addressing the toxicity that's inside, which is what the medical system does.
Mm,
You go and you take an antibiotic, you go and take an anti-parasitic pharmaceutical or whatever, you're killing them, sure.
mm,
And you'll see some of them come out and so on. Probably not all of them, tell you what, because the terrain is dirty, it's
yeah.
filthy. So you kill a few, but the environment's still, you know, there's probably still some there. They're reproducing again because what's their job? To resolve that
Mm,
toxicity, you know, to gobble it up, to eat it. That's their life.
right.
And unless you clear it and stop consuming more of it, that starts blocking and densifying and slowing your system down, and you know, and because that's where you start that process again, right? It's that whole detox, retox,
Mm,
detox,
right.
retox. That that only happens if you don't have a fluid body. If you keep feeding the body
Great point.
things that slow you down, that slow your system down, that clog you up, because then yeah, sure, you're going to start building things again.
Great point.
Yeah,
Right. Great
yeah,
point. So
yeah.
it's like defeating the purpose. Yeah, we're defeating the purpose if we don't change the root, you know,
Mm.
we won't change the fruit. For sure. For sure.
I love that.
We got to
Yeah.
get to the root cause to have a different effect, for sure.
Mm.
So the next question they had for you, Nova, Marie, shout out to Marie. She said, "Is it all physical
Mm.
benefits like pain, or can it be good for emotional and mental stuff?" I think you answered that as well. The emotional
Yeah,
and mental as well. Yeah.
that's beautiful. But it's such an important one.
Mm,
Thank you, Marie, because it all has to do with all of it. And the way I go about things, like, you know, what Jerome was just saying, we go to the root. What is the root? The more dense aspect of this vessel. And what is that? The physical aspect. That's the slower moving molecules. Remember quantum physics, or physics in general, right? Where, you know, you look at a gas and it's very fast moving molecules, and you know, you look at the liquid and it's still fast moving, but not as fast. And then as they slow down, it turns into solid
mm,
matter. So, you know, vapor, water, ice, right? We can see that. We know what's actually happening on a molecular level. That's what's happening vibrational, energetically,
mm,
and physically visible in our bodies. Now, when we have obstructions, which are just densities, right? Things have slowed down, and we end up with obstructions, which are physical, visible. That is energetic as well.
mm,
And imagine if we, again, I spoke about it at the beginning, you're looking at the same scale of emotions from negative to positive, fear to love,
mm,
right? Anger, resentment, judgment, all of these things, that's like swimming in sludge,
mm,
dense emotions that slow things down, that cause disease, that are acidic,
right.
right? As opposed to joy, love, bliss, authenticity, you know, those are higher
Mm,
vibrations that heal, because they say love heals. Yes, of course it does. It's up here,
right.
right? The food is on that same scale,
Mm,
right? From negative, you know, positive to negative in this case, you know, positive being actually protons, which is acidic,
mm,
versus alkaline, right? So
mm,
acidic versus alkaline. Let's not go into the different ones.
yeah.
Um, and so what we got to realize is that when we start unraveling the density at the root,
Mm,
which is, you know, the the bottom here,
Mm-hmm.
we start to shake things up.
Mm-hmm.
We dissolve not just the physical and start eliminating the physical, but that actually opens up the energetic side, the emotions. And that's why when we go through detox, the hardest part most of us go through is all the crap that comes up mentally and emotionally. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, and memories, traumas and all these things can, because we've done this for so long and held them in all the different little pockets physically, therefore presenting as symptoms.
Right.
It's all the same. And so that's the beauty of this process of detox, is that I am not the same person. I was saying this yesterday to my group. Like, I was in the shiz mentally and emotionally. I was stuck most of the time, but that's most of us. And over the top, like, oh, everything's cool. The peace that again, it's a different baseline. Yeah. When you start clearing and clearing and clearing, your baseline comes up here of how you experience yourself and everybody and life in this body, not just physically again, right? As she was saying, with pain and so on, that's a physical, manifestation, but how you're able to navigate life, situations, relationships, stress, perceived stress. It's like you are lighter. Yeah. So it's not to say that you are bypassing, like a lot of people bypass in the spiritual community, and and they go, oh, you have to think positive, be positive, I'm always good, everything's amazing, blah, No, that's not it. That's not it. That's not creation. That's not unconditional. That's not love. It's feeling and expressing and allowing the flow of whatever is, but not remaining stuck in it. That is it. Mm-hmm.
Yes. 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 Oh man, so eloquently put. So eloquently put. And just the final question that we had at the very top, I found Eric. Eric just asked, "Hey Nova, what is the best way to refeed after your first intense fast? What's the best way for refeeding?" They're asking.
Fruit. It's really, really simple. It really is so simple.
Right.
There's nothing complicated to it. The only complication is what our mind starts resisting and wanting and No, it's really simple. You come out of any fast, and whether it's water fasting and juice fasting, and it's fruit. And the simpler the better. So papaya, eat the whole papaya. You probably won't be able to eat the whole thing depending how long you fasted for, but just be simple. Just have the one fruit. Watermelon, whatever it is. If it's water fasting, obviously you would know if you're actually water fasting for an extended period of time. I don't recommend that unless you actually know what you're doing. Seek guidance. Then, it would be coconut water or something like that, or even a very watery fruit like watermelon, that sort of thing. So very easy. And spend around 3 days for every week that you fasted on fruit, on just fruit and water or juice or whatever it is. And then you can start incorporating, simple salads and other things that you might want to incorporate after that. But honor the time, because that's the most important time to shift on every level as well, and to not go into fear. Right. And straight back into patterns that you may have gone into before, because that can happen. And I've done that. Most of us have done that.
Same. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Lesson learned. We live and we learn, for sure. So great advice, Nova, and just thank you for your powerful testimony. Thank you for all your words of wisdom today, just all your learnings from your beautiful journey and just your discoveries. These are really important for us to know today. Just let people know where they can find your services, your offerings, just the best place if you have a website or just a
Mm.
central location. What's the best place for people to get in touch and in tune with your offerings?
Easy. I mean, they can just hop onto my page and send me a DM, or I do have a website as well, which is the same, novaearthoracle.com. You can find everything on Instagram. Basically, that's like my home page. I'm not very good with having all these different platforms, so
Hey,
that's the main one.
okay.
And I just wanted to really appreciate you, Jerome. So I'm honored to be part of your space and time and energy, and thank you so much. It's absolutely beautiful what you do, what you're sharing, and yeah, and what you've shared so openly as well with me and with everyone. So that's it's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. We're here together, you know. Just this is the message, you know. This is the connection and the reflection that we need right now. And I needed this. You gave me some words that I needed, you know. Like I'm definitely gonna be watching this again to really absorb and get all the goodies because this has been awesome. This has been awesome. So blessings, Noah. Blessings. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you
Enjoy,
to
enjoy.
everyone as well.
Yes.
Thank you. Loads of love. Yeah.
Everyone who joined. All right.
Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.